The massive chamber of the Galactic Council stretched wider than any Earth stadium. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the center, feeling very small. Around her, representatives from 47 star systems sat in floating chairs that defied gravity. Each alien looked different. Some had scales. Some were made of living crystal. Others looked like clouds of colored gas held together by energy fields. Sarah's crew stood behind her. Marcus Rodriguez, her chief engineer, kept his hands steady even though his heart raced. Lieutenant Ito, the weapons officer, studied every exit. Dr. Emma Patel watched the aliens with scientific curiosity. They all wore the blue uniforms of Earth's United Space Force. Above them all, Ambassador Krextal of the Eternal Empire floated on a platform made of pure light. His body was crystalline, catching and reflecting every color in the room. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes mixed with thunder. The Council recognizes the presence of the species calling themselves humans, Krextal said. His tone suggested he found this duty annoying. You may present your case for membership. Sarah stepped forward. She had practiced this speech 100 times. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Earth comes to you with open hands and hopeful hearts. We have achieved faster-than-light travel. We have established colonies on 12 worlds. We have developed peaceful relations with our neighboring systems. We meet all requirements for Council membership. A ripple of sound moved through the chamber. It took Sarah a moment to realize they were laughing. 12 worlds, said a being that looked like a giant jellyfish floating in a water bubble. The HFY Federation controls 12,000 worlds, little human. And we are among the younger members here. Sarah kept her face neutral. Every civilization starts somewhere, honored HFY. Earth seeks to learn from your wisdom. Wisdom? Krextal's crystal body flashed with what seemed like amusement. You speak of wisdom? Your species has existed for barely 300,000 years. Your recorded history spans a mere 10,000. The Eternal Empire has maintained continuous civilization for 8 million years. The Earth itself is only 4.5 billion years old, added another council member, a spider-like being with too many eyes. A child planet around a young yellow star. My species remembers when your sun was still forming from cosmic dust. Marcus shifted behind Sarah. She could feel his anger without looking, but they had agreed to stay calm no matter what happened. Age alone does not determine worth, Sarah said carefully. Humanity has much to offer. Our perspective is fresh. Our innovation rate exceeds innovation? Krextal interrupted. What could you possibly innovate that we have not already discovered, perfected, and moved beyond? We mapped every gene before your planet cooled. We harnessed the power of black holes when your ancestors were single-celled organisms floating in primordial soup. The council chamber filled with more laughter. Some members didn't even pay attention anymore, turning to speak with their neighbors about other matters. Sarah pulled out a small device. If I may demonstrate, no demonstrations, Krextal said, waving a crystalline hand. The council has seen enough. We have reviewed your application thoroughly. Your technology is primitive. Your ships are slow. Your weapons are toys. Your medicine is barbaric. You still die of age. How quaint. Dr. Patel's fists clenched. Humans had extended their lifespan to 200 years through genetic therapy, but several council species were effectively immortal. Furthermore, Krextal continued, your species is violent. Our historians have studied your history. Constant warfare. You fought over land, resources, ideas, and sometimes for no reason at all. Even now, with access to space, you maintain military forces. Why would peaceful civilizations want such aggressive children among us? Our military exists for defense and exploration, Sarah said. We've been at peace for 50 years. 50 years. The jellyfish being pulsed with colors that probably meant laughter. I have furniture older than your peace. The HFY Federation has not seen internal conflict for 300,000 years. Sarah felt her crew's frustration building behind her. Lieutenant Ito's hand had moved unconsciously toward where his weapon would normally sit. They had been forced to come unarmed, of course. The decision is already made, Krextal announced. The Council denies Earth's application for membership. You are too young, too primitive, and too violent. Perhaps in another 1,000,000 years, if your species survives that long, you may apply again. 1,000,000 years? Sarah couldn't keep the shock from her voice. A standard waiting period for infant civilizations, Krextal said. The Viridian Empire waited 2 million years before being accepted. Consider yourselves fortunate. An alien that looked like a moving pile of rocks rumbled something that translated as, they probably won't last that long. Young species rarely do. They burn out like sparks from a fire. We have a betting pool, the spider being added, on whether humanity will destroy itself through war, environmental collapse, or failed genetic experiments. I give you another 1,000 years at most. The chamber erupted in discussion of the betting odds. Different species called out their wagers on humanity's doom. Sarah stood forgotten in the center. Her historic moment turned into a gambling opportunity. We are not finished, Sarah said loudly. The chamber quieted slightly. You judge us by our age, she continued, but age can bring stagnation as easily as wisdom. You laugh at our violence, but conflict drives adaptation. You mock our youth, but Captain Chen, Krextal interrupted, his voice now cold. The Council has spoken. Your primitive ship has permission to remain in neutral space for 72 hours to resupply. Then you will return to your young world and tell them to grow up. This session is concluded. The platform carrying Sarah and her crew began descending. They were being literally lowered out of the Council's presence. Around them, the ancient beings had already moved on to other business, discussing trade routes that had been unchanged for millennia, and philosophical debates that had been running for eons. As they reached the bottom, Marcus whispered, Captain, we should... Not here, Sarah said quietly. Wait until we're back on the Prometheus. They walked through the massive station's corridors. Other species passed them, most not even noticing the humans. Those that did look at them with expressions that might have been pity or amusement. A group of young Viridians, probably only a few thousand years old themselves, pointed and whispered. Sarah heard one say, Look, it's the baby species that thought they could join the Council. The walk to their docking bay felt endless. Sarah kept her head high, but inside she burned with humiliation. Earth had sent their best. They had brought gifts of art and music. They had offered to share their medical discoveries, their computing advances, their agricultural innovations. None of it had mattered. The Prometheus sat in the smallest docking bay, dwarfed by the ancient vessels around it. The Earthship looked exactly like what the Council saw it as, a child's toy surrounded by monuments. Once aboard, the crew gathered in the conference room. Everyone started talking at once. They didn't even look at our proposals. Called us primitive. Our quantum computers can... That crystalline bastard needs to learn. Enough, Sarah said. The room quieted. We knew this might happen. Command prepared us for rejection. But not like this, Dr. Patel said. They treated us like we were nothing. Less than nothing. A joke. They've been in space for millions of years, Marcus said. To them, we probably are nothing. Lieutenant Ito slammed his fist on the table. We defeated the scavenger fleet with 3 ships. We colonized worlds they said were uninhabitable. We cracked FTL travel in less than a century after achieving spaceflight. How is that nothing? Sarah looked at her crew. Good people, all of them. The best Earth had to offer. And they had been laughed at like children at an adult party. Log everything, she said. Every word, every gesture, every laugh. Earth needs to see exactly how the galaxy views us. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the ancient station. It was beautiful, she had to admit. A work of art built over millions of years. But something about it bothered her. It was too perfect. Too unchanged. Like a museum rather than a living place. Captain, Marcus said, what do we do now? Sarah watched the ancient ships drift by like sleeping whales. We go home, we report, and we prove them wrong. That could take millennia, Dr. Patel said. Maybe, Sarah said. Or maybe they're about to learn that young species have one advantage over old ones. What's that? Lieutenant Ito asked. Sarah turned from the window, and for the first time since the meeting, she smiled. We're hungry, and hungry species don't wait for permission to grow. 3 months had passed since the Galactic Council meeting. The Prometheus remained on the edge of neutral space, officially conducting a survey mission. Unofficially, Captain Sarah Chen had convinced Earth Command to let her stay and observe. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong with the perfect ancient galaxy. The crew had settled into a routine. They studied the Council species from afar, collected data, and transmitted everything back to Earth. The humiliation still stung. But they had turned it into determination. Marcus Rodriguez had spent the time analyzing the Council's technology through long-range scans. Captain, you need to see this, he said one morning, pulling up his findings on the main screen. Their ships are beautiful, but look at the energy signatures. They're using the same reactor designs they've had for 1,000,000 years. No improvements, no modifications. If it works, why change it? Dr. Patel said, though she sounded uncertain. Because everything can be improved, Marcus replied. But they've stopped trying. Lieutenant Ito was running combat simulations when his console erupted in alarms. Captain, I'm detecting something massive heading this way. God, it's huge. The main viewer switched to long-range sensors. What appeared on screen made everyone freeze. A cloud of objects moved through space like a plague of locusts. Billions of small ships, each no bigger than the Prometheus but moving together with terrifying coordination. The Devourer Swarm, Sarah whispered. She had read about them in the Council's public archives, an ancient threat that appeared every few thousand years, consuming everything in their path. 17 civilizations had fallen to them over the eons. They're heading straight for the Council station, Lieutenant Ito reported. At current speed, they'll arrive in 6 hours. Sarah stood. Open a channel to the Council. Maximum priority. After several minutes, Krextal's crystalline face appeared on screen. He looked annoyed. Captain Chen, your resupply period ended months ago. Why are you still... Ambassador, there's a Devourer swarm heading your way, Sarah interrupted. 6 hours until contact. Krextal's crystalline form flickered, which Sarah had learned meant surprise. Then his color shifted to what seemed like amusement. Your primitive sensors must be malfunctioning. The Devourers are not due for another 3,000 years. Our sensors work fine, Sarah said, sending the scan data. Check for yourself. There was a pause. Then alarms began sounding on the Council station. Sarah could hear panicked voices in the background of Krextal's transmission. This is impossible, Krextal said. They're early. They've never been early. We can help, Sarah offered. The Prometheus has weapons, your toy weapons. Krextal's fear transformed into scorn. The Council fleet will handle this. We have destroyed Devourer swarms before. When was the last time? Sarah asked. 70,000 years ago, Krextal said proudly. We have the same ships, the same weapons that defeated them then. History will repeat itself. Sarah watched the Council fleet begin to assemble. 500 ships, each one a masterpiece of ancient engineering. They were beautiful, covered in artistic designs that had been added over millennia. But Marcus was right. Their energy signatures were identical, predictable. Ambassador, please, Sarah tried again. Let us help. Our weapons may be different from yours. Different means inferior. Krextal cut her off. Your species has existed for a blink of an eye. The Council has protected this galaxy since before your sun formed. Stay at your safe distance and watch how real civilizations handle threats. The transmission ended. Sarah turned to her crew. Battle stations. Captain? Dr. Patel asked. He told us to stay away. He did, Sarah agreed. And officially we will. But I want everything ready. Something feels wrong about this. The hours passed quickly. The Council fleet arranged itself in a formation that had probably been unchanged for millennia. It was geometrically perfect, aesthetically pleasing, and completely predictable. The Devourer swarm appeared on visual sensors. Up close they were even more terrifying. Each small ship was a biomechanical hybrid, part machine and part living organism. They moved like a school of fish if fish were armed with energy weapons and consumed metal. The Council fleet is engaging, Lieutenant Ito reported. The ancient ships fired in perfect synchronization. Beams of energy that could crack moons struck the front edge of the swarm. Thousands of Devourer ships vanished. For a moment it looked like Krextal was right. The Council's ancient weapons were working. Then the swarm adapted. Captain, the Devourer ships are changing their hull configuration, Marcus said, his voice tight with disbelief. They're analyzing the Council's weapons and they're evolving defenses in real time. Within minutes, the Council's weapons were having less effect. The beams that had destroyed thousands now barely scratched hundreds. The swarm kept coming. The Council fleet is trying to adapt, Lieutenant Ito said. But they can't. Their weapons don't have variable frequencies. Their shields don't have modulation capabilities. Everything is locked into configuration set millions of years ago. Sarah watched in horror as the perfect formation began to break. The beautiful ancient ships, works of art all, started falling one by one. The Devourers swarmed over them like antibodies attacking an infection, taking them apart piece by piece. The station's shields are failing, Dr. Patel reported. 40 billion lives on that station. Sarah made a decision. Marcus, bring our experimental weapons online. Captain, we were ordered to stay away. And we will officially report that we observed from a safe distance, Sarah said. But I'm not watching genocide. Humanity didn't crawl out of the caves to become bystanders. Marcus grinned. Weapons coming online. The package from Earth's Special Projects Division is ready. Over the past 50 years, Earth had developed weapons in secret. Not because humans wanted war, but because they understood that the universe was dangerous. While the Council rested on ancient victories, humanity had been preparing for threats they hadn't even met yet. Lieutenant Ito, plot an attack course, Sarah ordered. Take us in fast and unpredictable. Show them how a young species fights. The Prometheus's engines roared to life. But this wasn't the steady, efficient thrust the Council expected. Marcus had modified them with something humanity called burst drive technology. Dangerous, unstable, and absolutely impossible to predict. The small Earthship shot forward like a bullet, then suddenly shifted sideways, then spun in a corkscrew pattern that should have torn it apart. The crew pressed into their seats as inertial dampeners struggled to compensate, deploying countermeasures. Lieutenant Ito announced. From the Prometheus's hull, clouds of microscopic drones emerged. Each one was barely visible, but they were humanity's answer to swarm tactics. If the enemy could adapt, so could Earth's weapons. The drones hit the Devourer swarm and immediately began learning. They analyzed the biomechanical ships, found weaknesses, and exploited them. Then they transmitted that data to each other. Getting smarter with every second. It's working, Marcus shouted. The drones are outpacing the Devourer's evolution rate. But the swarm was vast. The Prometheus was just one ship against billions. Captain, we're being targeted, Lieutenant Ito warned. Massive concentration of Devourer ships converging on us. Sarah gripped her chair. Dr. Patel, activate the consciousness transfer buffer. If we're destroyed, at least our experience gets transmitted back to Earth. Buffer activated, Patel confirmed. But Captain, we can't hold them all off. Sarah watched the tactical display. The Prometheus had carved a hole in the swarm, saved maybe a dozen Council ships. But the station was still being consumed. Billions would still die. Captain, Marcus said quietly, we could use the Phoenix Protocol. Everyone on the bridge went silent. The Phoenix Protocol was theoretical, untested. It involved overloading their reactor in a controlled explosion that would create a chain reaction in nearby energy sources. Like the Devourer ships. That would destroy us too, Dr. Patel said. Maybe, Marcus said. Or maybe we trust human engineering. We built these ships to take punishment the Council couldn't imagine. Sarah looked at the screen. The beautiful Council station was breaking apart. Ancient wonders that had existed for millions of years were being devoured in minutes. And Krextal's flagship was directly in the path of the largest swarm concentration. Do it, she ordered. Marcus's fingers flew over his console. The Prometheus's reactor began to pulse with a rhythm that was definitely not in any manual. 30 seconds to Phoenix ignition. All crew, brace for impact, Sarah announced ship-wide. We're about to show the galaxy what human anger looks like. The Prometheus dove straight into the heart of the Devourer swarm, toward the Council station. The ancient races watching from their dying ships must have thought the humans had gone insane. 10 seconds, Marcus counted. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Phoenix Protocol activated. The Prometheus erupted in controlled fury, but instead of being destroyed, the ship channeled the explosion outward through specially designed vents. The energy wave hit the Devourer ships and caused their own biomechanical cores to overload. One explosion became 2, became 4, became thousands. A chain reaction spread through the swarm like fire through oil. The perfect adaptive organisms couldn't adapt to chaos itself. The Prometheus hung in space like a wounded bird, but it was still fighting. Half the Devourer swarm had been destroyed by the Phoenix Protocol, but half of billions was still an overwhelming force. The chain reaction had bought time, nothing more. Damage report, Sarah called out as smoke cleared from the bridge. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7, Marcus reported, blood running from a cut on his forehead. We've lost 40% of our weapons. Engines are running hot but functional. The remaining Devourers are regrouping, Lieutenant Ito warned. They're adapting to our attack pattern. We surprised them once, but they learn fast. Sarah pulled up the tactical display. The Council fleet was in ruins. Of 500 ships, maybe 50 remained functional. The station's shields flickered like a dying heartbeat. But the Prometheus had proven something important. The Devourers could be fought. They could be hurt. Incoming transmission from the Council. Dr. Patel announced. Krextal appeared on screen. His crystalline form was cracked, his perfect symmetry broken. Behind him, his bridge was in chaos. "Human vessel, you violated our direct orders." "We saved your lives," Sarah shot back. "You've doomed us all." Krextal's form flashed with angry colors. "The Devourers have never seen weapons like yours. Now they're adapting to them. When they return, they'll be immune to your tricks." Sarah felt anger rise in her chest. Even now, even dying, the Council couldn't admit they needed help. Captain Marcus interrupted. "I'm detecting something odd. Our drones that are still active? They're not just fighting. They're learning faster than their programming should allow." "What do you mean?" "I mean they're rewriting their own code in real time. That's not possible with our technology, unless—" His eyes widened. "Captain, permission to try something insane?" "How insane?" "Remember how Earth's AI division insisted on putting quantum processors in the drones? The ones that nobody thought would work in combat conditions? The ones you called a waste of resources?" "I was wrong," Marcus admitted. "Captain, I think our drones aren't just adapting. They're innovating, creating new attack patterns that were never programmed. If I can link them to the Prometheus's main computer and remove the safety limits, that's illegal under Earth law," Dr. Patel said. "Unrestricted AI in weapons systems is banned. Earth laws for Earth space," Sarah said. "We're a long way from home, Doctor." "Do it, Marcus." Marcus began working. On the tactical display, the remaining drones suddenly changed their behavior. Instead of attacking individually, they began forming complex geometric patterns. They started using the Devourer's own adaptation ability against them, forcing them to change in ways that made them vulnerable to other attacks. "It's working," Lieutenant Ito said with amazement. "The drones are playing multi-dimensional chess while the Devourers are still learning checkers." But even as their drones fought brilliantly, more Devourer reinforcements kept coming. "The swarm seemed endless. We need more firepower," Sarah said. "What else do we have?" "There is one thing," Lieutenant Ito said slowly. "The prototype in Cargo Bay 3. Everyone turned to look at him. The one marked, "Do not deploy under any circumstances." Dr. Patel asked. "That's the one," Ito confirmed. "Project Wildfire. It's a nanoweapon that consumes energy from any source to replicate itself. Command was afraid it could get out of control." "Define out of control," Sarah said. "Theoretically, it could consume a star if left unchecked. But Marcus and I added a timer. After 1 hour, it turns inert." Sarah looked at the tactical display. The Council station had maybe 20 minutes before total shield failure. "Deploy it." "Captain, the Council ships are still out there," Patel protested. "If this weapon can't tell friend from foe, then we better make sure it only hits foes," Sarah said. "Lieutenant, can you program it to only target the Devourer's specific biomechanical signature?" "Maybe. Probably I'll need 5 minutes. You have 3. As Ito worked frantically, Sarah opened a channel to all Council ships. "All vessels, this is the Earth ship Prometheus. Clear the following coordinates immediately. We're deploying a new weapon." "You dare give us orders?" came an angry response from a Viridian commander. "I dare save your lives," Sarah replied. "You have 2 minutes to move, or you can explain to your ancestors why pride was more important than survival." Some ships moved. Others, too proud or too damaged, stayed where they were. "Ready," Ito announced. Launching Project Wildfire. A single missile, no bigger than a person, shot from the Prometheus. It looked pathetically small against the massive swarm. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the missile hit the first Devourer ship and exploded into a cloud of microscopic machines. The nanobots immediately began consuming the biomechanical hull, using its energy to replicate. 1 ship became infected, then 2, then 10, then 100. "The growth is exponential," Marcus reported. "The Devourers are trying to adapt, but the nanobots are consuming them faster than they can evolve." The swarm tried to scatter, but it was too late. The nanobots spread like a silver plague, jumping from ship to ship. Each consumed Devourer provided materials for billions more nanobots. Within minutes, entire sections of the swarm were dissolving into silver clouds. "It's beautiful," Dr. Patel whispered, watching the display. "Terrifying, but beautiful. The Devourers tried everything. They shed their infected parts, created energy barriers, even started destroying their own infected ships to create fire breaks. Nothing worked. The human weapon was too aggressive, too hungry, too angry to be stopped. 30 minutes until the nanobots go inert," Marcus reported. "The swarm is down to 20% strength and falling. But the remaining devourers were learning. They had pulled back, studying the nanobot plague, analyzing its patterns. "Captain, they're doing something," Ito warned. "The remaining devourer ships are merging." On the screen, thousands of biomechanical ships flowed together like liquid metal, forming larger and larger constructs. Within minutes, instead of billions of small ships, there were a dozen massive ones, each the size of a moon. "The nanobots can't spread as effectively through those merged hulls," Marcus said. "They've adapted." The giant devourer constructs began moving toward the station again. They were slower now, but their weapons were proportionally more powerful. Council ships that tried to stop them were swatted aside like insects. "Time for the backup plan," Sarah said. "We have a backup plan?" Patel asked. "We always have a backup plan," Sarah smiled grimly. "We're human. Marcus, remember that modification you wanted to make to our faster-than-light drive? The one that could theoretically turn it into a weapon? The one that could tear a hole in space-time? That modification? That's the one. Captain, that's not a weapon, it's a catastrophe waiting to happen. Good thing we're fighting a catastrophe then." Sarah turned to the crew. "We're going to ram them." Silence filled the bridge. "At faster-than-light speed?" Dr. Patel asked. "That's impossible. The safety protocols were written by species that had millions of years to be careful," Sarah interrupted. "We have about 10 minutes. Marcus, can you do it?" Marcus was already working. "Removing safety protocols. Rerouting power from life support. We'll have one shot at this." "That's all we need," Sarah said. She opened a channel to Earth. "Command, this is Prometheus. We're about to do something stupid. If it works, send more ships. If it doesn't, tell them we tried." She didn't wait for a response. "All hands prepare for FTL RAM. If you have any gods, now would be a good time to pray to them." The Prometheus turned toward the nearest giant devourer construct. Its engines began to glow with a light that hurt to look at. Space itself seemed to bend around the ship. "The council ships are messaging us," Patel reported. "They're saying this is impossible." "Good thing nobody told us that when we invented it," Sarah replied. "Marcus, now." The Prometheus jumped to faster-than-light speed while still in normal space. "Every law of physics as understood by the ancient races said this should have destroyed the ship instantly, but humans had never been good at following rules." The Prometheus hit the devourer construct at several times the speed of light. The impact created a paradox that reality couldn't resolve. Space twisted. Time fractured. The giant biomechanical construct didn't just explode. It ceased to exist, erased from the universe by the sheer impossibility of what had happened. The Prometheus tumbled out of the impact, every system screaming warnings. The ship was more than damaged. It was broken on a fundamental level. But it had survived doing the impossible, and the remaining devourer constructs were retreating. They had never retreated before. In millions of years across 17 civilizations, they had never encountered something that scared them, but they were scared of humanity. The Prometheus drifted through space, barely holding together. Sparks flew from broken consoles. The artificial gravity kept failing and recovering, making everyone's stomach lurch. But they were alive, and the devourers were running. "Full stop," Sarah ordered, though the engines were already dead. "Damage report. Where do I start?" Marcus laughed, but it was the laugh of someone on the edge of shock. "We broke physics, Captain. The ship's structure exists in at least 3 different dimensional states right now. I'm surprised we're not inside out. Can you fix it?" "Fix it? I don't even understand it." "We'll need a space dock. A big one." Around them, the remaining council ships approached cautiously, as if the Prometheus might explode at any moment. The massive council station still stood, wounded but alive. 40 billion souls saved by one impossible human ship. "Incoming transmission," Dr. Patel announced. It's from all of them. Every council ship, the station, everyone." The main screen filled with faces. Dozens of alien species, all watching the broken Earth ship with expressions that Sarah had never seen before. It wasn't mockery or dismissal, it was fear. Krextal appeared in the center of the screen. His crystalline form had been hastily repaired but still showed cracks. "Human vessel. What are you?" "We're the ship that saved you," Sarah replied. "No," Krextal said. "What are you?" "Your weapons consume enemies like a plague. Your drones think for themselves. You break the laws of physics as if they were suggestions. You turned your engine into a weapon that erases things from existence. What kind of species creates such horrors? Sarah stood despite the unstable gravity. A young one. This is what youth means to you? Chaos? Destruction? Innovation, Sarah corrected. You've had millions of years to perfect your technology, but perfection is a dead end. It doesn't grow. It doesn't adapt. When something new comes along, like the Devourers, your perfect systems fail. So you replace perfection with madness? We replace stagnation with progress, Sarah said. Every human generation tries to surpass the previous one. Our children dream of things we can't imagine. Our scientists ask questions that would horrify you. Because we don't have millions of years to get it right. We have decades, maybe centuries. We have to innovate or die. The jellyfish ambassador from the Aquari Federation floated forward on the screen. Your weapon, the nanobots. They could destroy worlds. Yes, Sarah admitted. Your FTL ramming. It could tear holes in space? Probably. And you use these things anyway? To save lives? Yes, Sarah looked at all of them. You want to know what we are? We're the species that looked at the dark and decided to punch it in the face. We're the ones who see impossible odds and ask, but what if we try this? We're the children who haven't learned that some things are supposed to be impossible. Your weapons, the spider being said. Living weapons. Your entire species is a weapon. No, Dr. Patel spoke up, surprising everyone. We're doctors who will crack genes to save lives. We're engineers who will break reality to build something better. We're soldiers who will die to protect strangers. We're human. And yes, we're young enough to still believe we can make a difference. There was silence across all channels. Then something unexpected happened. The Prometheus's damaged sensors detected new signals. Information flooding in from every council ship. Technical data, schematics, scientific knowledge. What is this? Sarah asked. Education, Krextal said, and his tone had changed completely. If humanity is going to wield such power, you need wisdom to go with it. The council has made a decision. We haven't even asked to join again. You're not joining, Krextal said. You're being conscripted. The galaxy needs you, humans. God help us, but we need you. I don't understand. An ancient voice spoke. Sarah didn't recognize the species. Something that looked like living smoke in a containment field. The Devourers are not the only threat, young ones. There are things in the dark between galaxies. Things we've held back for eons with our perfect shields and ancient weapons. But they adapt just like the Devourers. And we stopped adapting long ago. You want us to be your weapons? Sarah asked. We want you to be what we can't be anymore, Krextal said. Innovators, risk-takers, the ones who look at the impossible and laugh. Your ship's computer, the artificial intelligence that controls your drones. Do you realize it's already surpassed our best AI systems? And it's still growing. As if in response, the ship's AI, Artemis, spoke for the first time since the battle. Captain Chen, I have been analyzing the Council's data streams. Their technology is impressive but static. With permission, I can begin integration and improvement protocols. An AI that improves itself, the jellyfish being said. We banned such things 5 million years ago as too dangerous. Everything is dangerous, Sarah said. The question is whether you use the danger or let it use you. Marcus had been working at his console. Captain, you need to see this. The Council's data, it's not just knowledge. It's history. Wars they've fought. Threats they've stopped and... His face went pale. The ones they couldn't stop. On the screen appeared images of dead galaxies. Entire spiral arms consumed by something that made the Devourers look like insects. Civilizations older than the Council reduced to cosmic ash. The entropy tide, Krextal said quietly. It comes every few million years. We've held it back 3 times. Each time we lost half the galaxy. The next wave will arrive in approximately 8,000 years. 8,000 years is a long time, Sarah said. For you, perhaps. For us, it's tomorrow. Our weapons haven't improved since the last tide. We'll lose more this time. Maybe everything. Sarah looked at her crew. They were exhausted, wounded, their ship held together by hope and emergency force fields. But in their eyes, she saw something the Council had lost long ago. Determination. Artemis, Sarah said. How long to analyze and improve their defensive systems? With current processing power, approximately 7,000 years, the AI replied. However, if I am allowed to create subsidiary AI systems and distribute processing across multiple platforms, perhaps 300 years. 300 years to upgrade a million-year-old civilization's defenses, Marcus whistled. That's ambitious even for us. The Council will never approve unleashed AI, Krextal said. The risks are worth it if the alternative is extinction, Sarah interrupted. You have a choice. Keep your perfect, safe, stagnant systems and die slowly. Or trust the young species you mocked. Trust us to be dangerous in the right direction. The council members looked at each other. Sarah could see the struggle on their alien faces. Million-year-old traditions warring with the need to survive. Finally, the ancient smoke being spoke. I am older than all here. I remember when the council was young. We were like you once, humans. Dangerous, innovative, unafraid. We conquered the galaxy not through wisdom but through courage. Perhaps it's time to be young again. You can't be young again, Sarah said. But you can learn from the young. You can remember what it means to take risks, to try the impossible, to fail and try again. And if your innovations destroy us faster than any threat? Krextal asked. Sarah smiled. Then at least we'll go out fighting instead of fading away. Isn't that better? To burn bright rather than slowly go dark? The vote was called. One by one, ancient civilizations that had existed since before Earth's sun was born voted to trust humanity. To unleash human innovation on their perfect, stagnant galaxy. It wasn't unanimous. Some species withdrew from the council rather than accept the change. But most stayed. There's one more thing, Sarah said as the vote concluded. The Prometheus is just one ship. Earth's third-best explorer class. We have others, warships, science vessels, colony ships. All built with the same innovative spirit. How many? Krextal asked. Currently? About 200. But give us a year and access to your shipyards. Marcus pulled up calculations. We could have thousands. Each one unique. Each one trying different technologies. Most will fail. But the ones that succeed will change everything, Krextal finished. Captain, Lieutenant Ito interrupted. I'm receiving a transmission from Earth. Admiral Foster wants to know if we need reinforcement. Sarah looked at the broken council fleet, the damaged station, the ancient races learning to hope again. Tell the Admiral yes. Send everyone. Send the scientists who were too crazy for Earth labs. Send the engineers who think safety regulations are suggestions. Send the soldiers who volunteer for impossible missions. She turned back to the council. You called us young. You were right. We are young. Young enough to believe in tomorrow. Young enough to fight for it. Young enough to build it with our own hands. And if we can't keep up, Krextal asked. Then we'll slow down and teach you, Dr. Patel said. That's what the young do for the old. We help you remember what it means to truly live. The Prometheus hung in space, broken but unbeaten. Around it, the ancient galaxy began to change. Not slowly, over millions of years, but right now. Today. Because humanity had arrived, and they were angry enough at the universe's threats to do something about them. 6 months had passed since the Devourer attack. The council station, once a monument to ancient perfection, now buzzed with chaotic energy. Human ships arrived weekly, each one different, each one impossible by the old standards. The galaxy would never be the same. Sarah stood in the new Joint Command Center watching human and council species work together. It wasn't always smooth. Yesterday, a human engineer had nearly given a Viridian a nervous breakdown by suggesting they'd just try connecting these two systems and see what happens. But it was working. Captain Chen, Krextal approached. His crystalline form had been augmented with human nanotechnology, allowing him to heal the cracks from the battle. The council requests your presence. It's time. Time for the final test. The council had agreed to human innovation, but they wanted proof it could work on a galactic scale. Today, humanity would demonstrate their solution to a problem the council had faced for 3 million years. The council chamber had been rebuilt. Gone were the floating platforms that separated species by importance. Now everyone stood on equal ground, a human suggestion that had caused weeks of debate but finally won. The test will commence, the ancient smoke being announced. They had learned its name was Vishtal, one of the last of a species that had transcended physical form. Humanity claims they can solve the entropy tide problem. We shall see. Admiral Foster had arrived from Earth for this. She stood beside Sarah, wearing the same confident expression she'd had when she'd approved the Prometheus's mission. Show them, Captain. Sarah nodded to Marcus, who activated the demonstration. A holographic galaxy appeared in the center of the chamber. The entropy tide, Sarah began, is not a swarm or a fleet. It's a wave of nothingness that consumes energy itself. Your shields can't stop it because it doesn't attack, it simply unmakes things. You've been fighting it like a wall against the ocean. How else can one fight entropy? Asked the jellyfish ambassador. You don't fight it, Marcus said, stepping forward. You surf it. Confused murmurs filled the chamber. Watch, Sarah said. The hologram showed the entropy tide approaching a section of the galaxy. But instead of shields, humanity had deployed something else. Thousands of small stations, each one containing what looked like a miniature black hole. Impossible, Krextal said. Artificial singularities are banned by council law, we know, Admiral Foster interrupted. But council law was written by people who were afraid of change. These aren't weapons. They're engines, the demonstration continued. As the entropy tide hit the artificial singularities, something extraordinary happened. The singularities began moving, pulling space itself with them. They created currents in the fabric of reality, channels that guided the entropy tide around inhabited systems instead of through them. You're not stopping it, Fishtal said, its smoky form pulsing with interest. You're redirecting it. Like irrigation channels in a flood, Dr. Patel explained. The water's going to flow anyway, but you can choose where it goes. This is madness, a Viridian commander protested. Manipulating space-time on this scale could tear the galaxy apart. Could, Lieutenant Ito agreed. Or it could save it. We ran 10,000 simulations. The success rate is 87%. 13% chance of destroying everything? Krextal's form flashed with alarm. Better than the 100% chance of losing half the galaxy to the tide, Sarah replied. Besides, that's the worst-case scenario. We have backup plans. Of course you do, Krextal said, and for the first time Sarah heard what might have been humor in his voice. But there's more. Admiral Foster said, show them the best part. Marcus changed the display. After the entropy tide passed through the singularity network, it left something behind. Traces of exotic matter, particles that shouldn't exist in normal space. The tide doesn't just destroy, Marcus explained. It transforms. We can harvest what it leaves behind. Turn destruction into resources. We've already built prototypes that can convert tide-touched matter into energy. Unlimited energy. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some species called it impossible. Others called it insane. But Sarah noticed none of them called it wrong. You would gamble the galaxy on untested human technology? The spider being asked. Not untested, Sarah said. She nodded to Artemis, who had been given a holographic avatar for this meeting. The AI appeared as a shifting geometric pattern, never quite settling on one shape. I have run comprehensive analyses, Artemis said. The human solution, while unorthodox, has a higher probability of success than any strategy the Council has employed previously. Furthermore, I have integrated Council historical data with human innovation protocols. Would you like to see what we can build together? The hologram changed again. Ships appeared, but not like anything that had existed before. They were part Council elegance, part human madness. Weapons that could adapt in real time. Shields that learned from attacks. Engines that bent reality just enough to be useful without tearing it apart. My God, Krextal whispered. These designs, they're beautiful and terrifying. That's humanity's contribution to the galaxy, Admiral Foster said. We make beautiful terrors and terrible beauty. We take your wisdom and add our insanity. Together we become something neither could be alone. I wish to speak, a new voice said. Everyone turned. It was one of the species that rarely participated in council meetings. A being that looked like living crystal but darker than Krextal's kind, shot through with veins of light. I am Zix of the Obsidian Collective. We are older than the council. We watched your rise, chose not to join, but we have been observing these humans. The being moved forward, its crystalline body chiming with each step. Do you know what makes them truly dangerous? Silence filled the chamber. It is not their weapons or their willingness to break rules, Zix continued. It is that they are still capable of hope. When they see the impossible, they don't accept it. They hope for a solution, and that hope makes them try things no rational species would attempt. Hope is not a strategy, the Viridian commander said. No, Zix agreed, but it is the foundation of all strategies. Without hope you have only protocols, and protocols, as we have seen, can fail. Sarah stepped forward. The Prometheus will lead the first deployment. We'll set up the singularity network in the tide's predicted path. If it fails, only human lives will be lost. No, Krextal said, surprising everyone. If humanity leads, the council follows. We are in this together now. He looked around the chamber. Who stands with Earth? One by one, appendages, tentacles, and energy fields raised in agreement. Not all, but enough. More than enough. There's one more thing, Sarah said. The devourers that retreated. Our long-range sensors tracked them. They're not gone. They're evolving, preparing for a rematch. We estimate they'll return in 50 Earth years. 50 years? The jellyfish being pulsed with distress. The Council needs centuries to prepare for threats. Then it's a good thing you have humans now, Admiral Foster said. 50 years is plenty of time for us. We'll have third-generation innovations by then. Maybe fourth. How? Vishtal asked. How do you innovate so quickly? Dr. Patel answered. Because we know we're going to die. Individual humans live maybe 200 years now. We don't have time to be careful. Every generation has to push forward or we waste the time we have. Your mortality drives your innovation? Krextel asked. Our mortality drives everything, Sarah said. We're the mayfly species of the galaxy, here and gone in a blink of cosmic time. But that makes every moment matter. Every choice. Every risk. She looked around the chamber at species that had existed since before Earth formed. You've had millions of years to get comfortable. We've had 300,000 to fight for every day. That's our gift to the galaxy. The anger of a species that refuses to go quietly into the dark. Then we accept your gift, Vishtal said, and may the universe help any threat that faces the anger of Earth. The meeting concluded with something unprecedented in Council history. The ancient species, beings of immense power and dignity, applauded. They applauded the young species they had mocked. They applauded humanity's insane courage. Later, Sarah stood on the observation deck of the repaired Prometheus. The ship had been rebuilt with a mixture of human and Council technology. It was stronger now, stranger, something between the ancient and the young. Marcus joined her. Did you ever think we'd get here? Here? Sarah laughed. I thought they'd throw us out immediately, maybe blow us up for good measure. Instead, we're redesigning their entire defensive strategy, because we were angry enough to prove them wrong. Sarah watched the stars. They called us young like it was an insult. They didn't understand that youth means hunger. It means energy. It means looking at the universe and saying, I bet I can change that. Lieutenant Ito's voice came over the intercom. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Devourers. Sarah and Marcus exchanged glances and headed to the bridge. On the screen appeared something that had never been seen before. A devourer that had taken almost human shape, built from billions of the smaller units. When it spoke, the voice was a chorus of organic and mechanical tones. Humans, it said. We have observed. We have learned. When we return, we will be ready for your chaos. Sarah smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Good. We'd be disappointed if you didn't try,